Warning: this episode may contain profanity, obscenities, and very strong language, and is not intended for all audiences. If you're a clicker, backpedaler, or trash content creator, in other words, shitter, you may be triggered. And hello everyone, welcome to long-awaited episode 6. Today we have a special guest. Funky is taking a small break. We have Turbo as a co-host today. Turbo is someone who is a veteran in the World of Warcraft Wrath scene. Well, World of Warcraft scene in general on private servers. Long-time raider, you PvP'd as well. You've been at the scene, at the high-end scene for quite a bit. Share a couple of words about yourself, Turbo.
Thanks for the introduction. I appreciate that. I've been playing for probably 6 years on Wrath Private now. I play the min-max specs like Affliction, Feral, just anything that I can dive deep into and endlessly improved my game on. I've just kind of dipped into Classic here and there. I have my feelings about each specific patch and whether or not I feel like I get my value out of my time there, but for the most part, I stick to the private scene, and I'm looking forward to Wrath Classic just because it's really the only expansion I can keep. I don't know. It's sustainable for me, right?
Yeah, it's sustainable for many reasons, and it's probably going to be the most fun one, right? Out of all of the classic iterations, even if there's classic Cataclysm or classic Mob down the line, I think classic Wrath is going to be the biggest banger. I think it's going to attract the most people coming back to the game, right? If you think about it,
sure.
That's where a lot of people started, or that's where a lot of people really started to understand the game, the raiding, and everything in general. What's happening in the game.
Yeah, it really is the plateau of that, of common knowledge between the spectrum of WoW players, between the modern retail coomers and the OG classic boomers. You have that kind of play style and mindset kind of meeting at one point, and I feel like almost everyone can get on board. Your modern day PvPers, it's fast paced enough for them to continue playing it, and it's not so crazy comparing to Shadowlands arena.
Yeah,
it's nowhere near that pace.
Yeah. I mean, I just came out of an arena session right now from TBC, and I can say that most definitely Wrath is way more fast-paced. Doing your globals in a clean way, using those globals actively and pumping damage is going to be giga important compared to TBC, where there's setting up, and there's certain scripts and what you should do and certain CCJ. Not that there isn't in Wrath, but it's way more focused on globals compared to TBC. I feel it's way more, if it was box, I would say you have to jab way more in Wrath than you have to do in TBC. But you've played both, and you played a lot of things.
Oh yeah. You just don't have that same time to set up and react in Wrath in TBC. There's so much pillar hugging and waiting for someone to use their next ability in TBC, and like you said, just a scripted scenario almost every time. You know what you're gonna press when they press something.
Yeah, absolutely, that is the case. As you said, pillar hugging as well. Not that, once again, there is going to be pillar hugging as well in Wrath of the Lich King. It's just 10 times more fast-paced, and that's what a lot of people like, myself included, to be honest. Playing Preg Paladin or maining Preg Paladin, which is the hybrid Paladin spec. You half support, you half DPS. Really, it's global intensive, and I quite like it. But anyway, not to dwell on that too much, we have a couple of topics to cover today. On episode 6 with Turbo, we'll be talking about topics such as Dungeon Finder. We'll go briefly over with the interview with Brian Birmingham. I know it's been beaten to death, everyone has talked about it, but maybe we can shed a different light on it. Maybe we can talk about different points that you have not heard before. So that's one of the things we'll be talking about, the shared rate lockouts. Talking about PvE in general, Turbo is a really big brain PvE player. For those that you don't know, he is the main officer for our Warmain guild. He's the brain behind of a lot of setups, a lot of things, as well a lot of strats when it comes to certain strats or even positioning and the way we clear raids. So he very much is very experienced in PvE, very experienced. So he's been brought onto this podcast because I believe that he can share his knowledge with all of you listening, and you might actually learn something. Because for sure, I have learned as well, and there's always something new that you can do, something new that you can pull off, and you constantly need to keep your game in check, so to speak, if you want to be pushing content. And that's why Turbo is here, because Turbo is amazing.
It's always good to get new perspectives. That's how the only way I've learned is, asking questions, listening to people. There's not a whole lot of 100% focused, correct content coming out of the current Wrath scene. So there's a whole lot of BS to sift through, and anyone who can provide an open discussion on general min-maxing topics, I think is doing the right thing for the community. There's not enough of it.
Yeah, or just anything that's better or an improvement or that's optimal in general, I would say.
Agreed. Yeah, we can always all improve our game.
Yeah, that being said, let's switch to this screen and let's zoom in a little bit, and let's cover the first topic, and that is removing Dungeon Finder in Wrath of the Lich King Classic. As I've said before, it's been beaten to death many times. People are complaining about what I have, my own take that I probably didn't share. Without further ado, Turbo, what do you think about not having Dungeon Finder in Wrath Classic?
I'll just start, I guess, with my initial reaction. My friend hit me up and told me about it because he's still very involved with TBC Classic, so he kind of keeps me in the loop there. I read through the news too, but having someone else's take is always nice. But yeah, as soon as the news came out, he told me, and I didn't know exactly what to think, because the first thing you think of is the potential driving factors for Blizzard. Why are they doing this? My first reactions: are they trying to make more money? How does this make them more money? That's kind of been the driving force behind what I feel is most of their decisions. So I have to say, as far as my main character goes, I'm blessed to have people to play with, a guild lined up to play with, to smash through heroic content. It's going to be easy, but just based on the current classic scene, there's a whole lot of class elitism and min-maxing, as far as, I need 2 warlocks and a mage for my AoE kiting heroic group, especially at the start of the dungeons or at the expansion, where people don't really know exactly what they're talking about. They don't know what classes pump, when they pump. They read something like spell cleaving is amazing. There's no original thought process.
Yeah. Well, here is what they state in the article, for example. The reason why they think it's not needed is because they don't want to sacrifice human to human interaction. And that's something that I kind of brought up on the previous episode, where you have this bulletin added, and there's a bunch of people spamming boost or this and this, or just spamming the freaking channels all the time. And this begs the question, like how much human to human interaction are you getting? Like you're sitting there like a muppet, you're just spamming the freaking channel and you're just listing it. Oh, this guy, you need DPS, he need mage, and then you don't get an answer, and you're like, okay, well that was a beautiful human to human interaction. Hey, need mage. Hey, need mage. Hey, need mage. Hey, need mage. Hey, need mage.
Yeah.
Pumper mage. And then
With
okay.
boosting too, it's like you're most likely talking to a bot anyway. You're interacting with a script.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, no, like my initial reaction was exactly that. Like my main's gonna be fine, but as far as my alts go, you know, like I want to roll some quote unquote meme specs that aren't necessarily good at the very start of the expansion.
And here's yeah, you're right, absolutely about it. My issue for the mains is I just don't want to gloss over it too fast. Is let's say we have a full 5-man, right? You're smashing the DPS, I'm tanking the 5-man. Like we still need to run around the whole freaking Northrend, dude. Like who has the fast mount, who doesn't have the fast mount. Let's say only 2 or 3 guys have the fast mount. Okay, so that means that those guys are to have to run. Alright, but follow on me, here's Crusader Hour. Okay, let's summon. Did you get a summon? Okay, no, he's AFK. Okay, wait. Okay, let's buff now. I forgot the reagents. Okay, go Hearthstone. Okay, let's summon you back. Okay, we summon you back. Okay, is the guy AFK? Okay, he came AFK. Okay, we need to summon him again. Okay, did you get your reagents? Okay, you didn't find the reagents yet. What do you mean you don't know where the reagents are? Okay, you need to take the portal to Orgrimmar. Okay, you took the portal to Orgrimmar. Now you need additional 1 minute. Okay, did you get your reagents? Okay, now let's summon you again. Okay, good. There's PvP on the stone. God damn it, now we have to PvP. Okay, fuck this fucking mage. Kill this mage. God damn it, he stole my blessing of freedom. The hand of freedom, excuse me. We're in the Wrath of the Lich King. Okay, we kill this mage. Okay, why are you AFK in the side, dude? Come outside, help us. God damn it, why are you AFK in the dungeon? Okay, okay, now we can finally start. Hugh, that's not content. Okay, what they just described that.
Is that the human interaction you were looking for?
Yeah, and that's not us. Like here's the issue I have with it, right? That's a realistic scenario that's going to be on Firemo. Firemo view, PvP scenario, summoning stone, contested territory. It's going to be a mess. Firemo is the most popular server. That's where the most people reside, except Gehenna's, which is also huge on the EU. But Gehenna's is only Horde, right? And what's going to happen is people are going to have exactly those scenarios, dude, right? Once you introduce PvP on the summoning stones, it's gigabad, right? It's gigabad. And what I'm speaking about is, yes, while leveling, everyone's going to be on the ground mount. But once you ding 80 and you got your Northern flying and you're, spamming those heroics with your team, it's gonna be annoying, dude. I'm happy that we're fairly in a Horde, because that's only Horde only server, and even then there's gonna be griefing, there's gonna be Taurens on their mammoths sitting on freaking summoning stones blocking you and stuff like that. It just goes in the way against what you want to achieve, and that's prep as much as possible, because you have 1 week to ding 80 into your heroics. And what a lot of people forget is you get 2 additional emblems for every heroic that you do through a random dungeon finder, right? And that's like 20 something emblems per day less that you get, right? And that's quite a bit. Times 5, that's 100 emblems less. Now, you're still gonna get all of your heroic gear, right? You're still gonna get all of the gear that you possibly want, but I mean, you're gonna get your trinket, but you might be actually be down a piece before tier 7 releases. Not that you don't need it, but I feel like, to be honest, if you're actually prepping for a release of a raid, and you have to choose, do I not get the neck? Do I do I not get the offhand? Do I just buy a crafted offhand and set myself 35 emblems or stuff like that? It's just... Here's an example, guys. It just promotes gold buying. Because why the frick would I spend extra emblems on a shield that I can buy from Amazon Heroism when I can just swipe and I can get a shield with more defense? Sure, I don't get dodge and hit, but I don't care. I need defense early.
Not to mention the mount itself to get to the dungeons. If you're spamming heroics all day, like you said, you're gonna have to fly all around Northrend. I think that's kind of insinuating, incentivizing gold buying in a sense, because I mean, just thinking about it, I would greatly prefer to have a 280 flying in that scenario, because I'll be playing Warlock. I'm going to be expected to summon. I have to get there fast. I'm kind of griefing if I don't have it, right?
Yeah, exactly, 100%. Look, you're a Warlock, you can do a summon, like, I don't know, like, I mean, like, even in these spots and boots, like, how many skips are people are gonna be sweating that? I don't think it's gonna be the meta, but it's just like an example, right? Like, what if you, like, do invis and NG boots with 2 other people and you, like, skip 10 minutes of trash packs, and then you just summon people there, right? Like, stuff like that. I don't know, I think it's going to be... It's just promoting more... I think it's just promoting more cringe stuff, to be honest. I really do, because if you're gonna have to min-max your movement, and you're gonna min-max your time, because all of a sudden you just lost an hour. You just lost an hour on your daily heroic clears, right?
Yeah, that's if you have a group that is willing to keep spamming dungeons without falling apart. You know, you got breaks in between.
Correct. Yeah.
There's gonna be plenty of time to take breaks when everyone's going and flying to the dungeon, you know, and you're gonna have to summon the lazy people. It's just it's not the type of human interaction I guess I'm looking for. It's formality, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And it might be like, it might sound that like we're talking about the same point over and over and over again, but it's just it is not fun. It really is not fun. I cannot emphasize enough that it is not really fun, and it's promoting bad things. Now, also why Dungeon Finder is important is for low levels, right? You have to think about people leveling from 1 to 60, or if they want to have an alt. It's, you know, it also begs the question, like, okay, all of these people all of a sudden, like, are they just supposed to do it old school? Well, you just might have someone who, hey, I just want to do a dungeon on my alt. And once again, you're sitting in a town, you're there, you need to find someone, you need to be in the trade chat. And then you have the looking for a group chat, and you're spamming that, and you're praying to God that you're gonna find a group on your server. And you might not find a group at all, right? Let's say like you have an afternoon, it was, you know, or a portion of an afternoon, it's a busy day, you just want to get the dungeon done, you want to chill down, maybe, you know, you're going to go to bed early on the day or something like that, or maybe it's an evening and, you know, you want to go to bed before midnight, or maybe you're watching a new episode of the show. It just sinks into the time, and like, why do I have to go through this? We went 1 to 60, you went through this, you had no summoning stone, and then you went in TBC, you know, 1 to 70, again, you didn't have any like, they introduced summoning stone, but they didn't introduce RDF, right? And now you have the same thing over again. Now we need to go 1 to 70 to unlock Northern content on your alt. You know, you want to get into the current content, because most of you are done with Hellfire Peninsula, right? Who cares about the Barons anymore? I mean, most of us don't care about Barons anymore, because we've done it like 15 million times to level the character on private servers. Like I cannot, personally, I can just not consume that content, 1 to 70 content. I cannot consume it physically anymore, because I've done it so many times, right? You know what I mean?
No, I feel it. It's like at the end of the day, who you have to think about who this affects mostly, right? And it's who wants this the most. It's people who I guess like who does even want it? I think it's Blizzard, like their perspective is we can bring back, you know, this community feel to the game and cut through all the boosting meta by not changing a single thing. Like, I don't get it, because boosting's just rampant in TBC, as you know, and there's really nothing preventing Wrath from not having the exact same boosting meta, or potentially even worse. It's like the original thought process behind Dungeon Finder solved a lot of the problems that TBC has with current grouping for leveling, and you're kind of just undoing that all so that people can coordinate how to get to a Northrend dungeon.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced that this is what the majority of the people who will continue to play the expansion want. I'm not talking about the massive influx of people who are going to start at the beginning of the expansion and, continue to log on their characters once every couple months and check in to see how things are going. Maybe they'll gear up during one tier and do some 10-mans. That's not the player I'm talking about. I'm talking about the people who consistently play the game. Like, do any of those people want no dungeon finder? I'm not convinced.
Yeah, I'm not convinced either. As I said, I think hardcore players want a dungeon finder. I think casual players want a dungeon finder. I think the community is united on this point. It's just simply like no one wants this, because even casuals, they went through the grinding process on 1 to 60. When the same thing again in TBC, it's just stated before, and then the same thing is expected for you to do that. In Wrath. And the thing is, like, you might get some heirlooms, and you just want to smash a dungeon. It's Wrath, different talents, different abilities. Well, not completely different, but it's enhanced to for lack of better term. And like, let's say you're in a warrior and you just got Bladestorm, dude. You got a heirloom weapon and the chest and the shoulders. At least I think you get chest at a later point. Could be wrong, but you got the shoulders in any case, right?
You get chest.
Yeah, and you just want to smash this, right? You just want to go on your warrior. You just want to press Q for a dungeon. You want to Bladestorm something, and you don't want to wait or waste time, even on lower levels, right? You just don't want to waste time. You just want to queue up and have some fun. Maybe you're playing Frost Mage and you're like, wow, Blizzard is doing like so much damage, or like Boomkin is giga fun with Hurricane and stuff like that, right? And you just want to play and have fun a little bit on your own, because it's nothing serious. It's not the main content, right? Because once again, you have the long grind from 17 to 8. It's going to take a couple of days. You got your professions to do. You got your pre-bis farm to do. Sons of Hodir to unlock. You got a bunch of stuff to do, right? On the max level. You really do. You have a bunch of stuff to do on level 80, and you're going to continue doing that, right? Because remember, we have dual spec. You're not one-dimensional as in TBC, because dual specking was not a thing in TBC for a lot of people. Like how many of you actually have dual spec and TBC, as in like you're playing two specializations? A couple, 5%. Maybe 5. I'll be very generous if I say 10%, right? Whereas in Wrath of the Lich King, that's gonna skyrocket to 30%, the very least 30%, right? Even if it's like a shitty meme spec, like a lot of you will just simply have, oh yeah, like here and there, maybe a Boomkin is gonna queue a dungeon as a healer here and there, right? Well, would potentially queue.
I'd argue a lot more, because our Wrath that we know is gonna be affected heavily by the inflation caused by GDKP on previous servers and just fucking gold oiling in general. So the price of dual spec in retrospect to the cost of, I'm sure, potions, greatness cards, etc., is going to be like minuscule. Like 1,000 gold should be nothing.
Yeah.
I think a ton of fucking people are going to have dual spec, and the amount of gear that gets disenchanted in T7, it's like that right there will convince people to buy their dual spec and try something new.
Yeah, it's just something different. Like let's even say like every Boomkin can have a resto spec and be effective at it. Like not min-maxed, but they can be effective on the fights where they're needed. A lot of disco priests, they might want to have a holy spec and try that on a couple of fights instead.
Yeah, most of these hybrid classes just rush haste cap anyway, which is beneficial for both healing and DPS, and you don't have to deal with healing power anymore. So
yeah, everything's,
man, hybrid's kind of cracked.
Yeah, everything's spell power, and even then warriors. Like, do you want to try Fury and have fun with Fury in this fight? Even though, warriors are not great. I mean, maybe, why not? Resto Shaman, Elemental Shaman, same thing. Shadow Priest, Disco Priest, although I gave an example of Holy. I mean, protection, you might have a Retri Paladin that you're feeding tanking gear, and then all of a sudden he's your go-to backup tank. We have those. We have plenty of those in the current iteration of the game. That's going to be a thing. Because as soon as your main 2 tanks are geared, or even main 3 tanks, right? Or your 2 main tanks and your main off tank, as soon as they're geared, you're like, okay, guys, like who's gonna be actually tanking, right? Because you have your 10 mans. Come Oldor, you need 2 tanks. Because in X 10, you can get away with so many things having just 1 tank. But come Oldor, you actually need 2 tanks on many different fights. Like, you actually need 2 tanks on Thorim, right?
Oh yeah, just no other way around it.
I'm just trying to think. Yeah, same with Iron Council. Doing it with 1 tank on Iron Council is going to be extremely hard. So you're going to need 2 tanks, and it's beneficial for your guild because you're going to have 2 10-mans, potentially 3, right? And you need extra tanks. You need people that are going to dual spec. I'm going to be like, okay, I might not be the best tank in the world, but we need a tank here, and I have a dual spec, and I can tank it. So here's the gear for it, and that's I don't know. That's just kind of how the Wrath is going to be from that point of view. Dual spec is amazing. Go get it, people. It's the best thing that ever came into the game, and it's, in my opinion, one of the biggest reasons why TBC was not so good. Not that TBC doesn't have many problems in its current iteration of TBC Classic. It has a lot of problems, both PvE and PvP wise. I mean, if Icy Fresh was here right now on podcast, he would be pulling his hair and losing his shit. Because I'm not mentioning all of the bugs that were not fixed in PvP, or how they handled certain seasons and stuff like that. But yeah, even like, for example, all of PvPers, they're just like CBA, just like they even CBA freaking Radiant. Like, I just have to respec. I need all of these consumes. Man, fuck that, dude. I'll just put on PvP gear, I'm CBA, whatever, dude. We'll get rating. Let's just play, Like, of course.
Yeah, I have friends who refuse to switch some weeks because, they want to try playing Fury and they're already a Prot Warrior, and their arena team is like, hey, are we capping this week? It's like, I'm not respecking 3 times. I don't have the gold for that. I'm not swiping. It's like kind of your PvP or dreams come true, honestly.
And that's also an extra thing. A lot of PvEers would PvP more if they actually had access to dual spec, and a lot of PvPers would PvE more if they had dual spec. I'm not saying a vast majority would, but a certain portion of the community would. Once again, it's 10%, 15%. Even if it's just 10% more, that's more people being more active and playing the game, which is a good thing by default, and this is what we need, right?
Yeah, that was one of the points I tried to continually make about TBC. It's this expansion in general would be so much better with dual spec, and I understand it'll change metas. If people were able to change spec mid ID, mid raid, it would completely change the rating meta for TBC in general, and we saw that on private servers like Endless. You had so much spec swapping and so much min-maxing based around dual spec. So sure, it's far from Blizz-like, but for me, I'm all about general improvements to the game, regardless of which hat you're wearing. The no changes or please times 7 XP everything. Kind of a heathen in that regard, but that's just that's what makes Wrath great. We could have done it a whole expansion earlier, but I guess there might be a TBC Season to Mastery, right, where we'll see maybe something like that.
Maybe, but I think it's too late. I think a lot of people are just done with TBC, myself included. I don't know, like I think a lot of people are just not vibing with the way TBC is and the meta and everything. I think Endless was a lot more fun for so many reasons. Sadly, it was not as popular as Warmane. Not at
Yeah,
all. Not at
the
all.
population really dies down fast on Endless. Like, it doesn't sustain itself. The launches are great and it's feels poppin', but there's no sustainability for it. And I was just reading in the Stormforge Discord earlier that they're planning on releasing another TBC project from Atlantis in the coming couple of years. And I don't know, what do you think about that? Would you play on a ×5 boosted TBC again with buffed content and multi-spec on the website, etc.?
Honestly, no. I wouldn't. I played on Atlantis before. It's a good server. I have nothing bad to say about it, but I'm personally done with TBC, especially after TBC Classic. I cleared tier 4. Tried to push tier 4 with the roster that was not pushable. Cleared tier 5, cleared tier 6. I raided for a couple of months tier 6. That was fun while it lasted. That's kind of what I wanted to clear the most, was BT and Hydra. I really wanted to, get to the point where I could say, okay, there's no more mysteries for me in this raid, right?
Yeah, that's understandable.
I don't care for Sunmol because I progged it. I progged it on Atlantis, and I had to get all of the arcane resistance and stuff like that, and I did Kale and Failmist and Brutalus, and the prep for Muru was insane as well. Didn't do a bunch of Kill Jaden, but I couldn't really care less, to be honest. Like, to be perfectly honest, like in terms of priorities for me personally, getting that checkmark on Kill Jaden is lower than killing a boss in Bolt of Archon. That's just, I really do not care about getting my checkmark on Kill Jaden. It's just like, you got Drakes, the room, just go around the assignments and kill the boss. It's not that hard. Yeah, I spent a lot of time looking at like Muru and the fully pre-nerf buffed Muru even, and stuff like that. So I've gone through all of that, and I don't have. It just doesn't motivate me to go through all of that again, to be honest. It just really doesn't. And there would need to be substantial changes to some classes for me to actually play TBC again. Now, that being said, one button hunter macros are really fun. Fun way to play the hunter, to be honest. But like, I don't know, like stuff like elemental shaman dropping off and being shit later on, I don't vibe with that. Although you kind of get the same in Wrath, but not really. You know what I mean? Like, they still have a lot of effectivity. Like, sure, like their raw damage is not there, but like you can use them in a different way. Like you can push certain content with an elemental shaman as like your backupper that you can't do with you can't really do that later on. Like, they're not as effective.
They scale pretty well with like different buffs too. Like Elemental and Vezax, I have seen them go off like more than most other classes. So they have their niche, like there's good uses for them, and that's kind of where dual spec comes in. You have Resto, which you don't necessarily need every fight, so they might be able to swap Ellie for you and provide you with whatever you may be missing buff wise, and then really excel in some fights. I think Hodier is one of them as well.
Yeah, Hodier for sure. Like, I think they're really good in tier 7 and tier 8, and they kind of start dropping off a little bit in tier 9, and then once ICC comes and you get this fucking 6.7k gear score type of fucking deal, I think that's where they really start dropping off hard. Heroic 1400 armor penetration warriors, fully heroic gear, Shadowmourne, and God knows what, and
fire mages
and like 30% buff with Lust, people having 35k DPS bursts and insane shit like that. I think it's obviously that they drop off to there, right? They just can't follow that insane inflation of damage values, right? But that being said, tier 7, tier 8, they can pack quite a punch, right? Whereas I feel like in in TBC they constantly just have these mana issues, man, like mages as well. Sure, like you have innervates, but there's like so much more mana issues in TBC. Not saying that you don't need to manage your mana, but you can be proactive about it. Whereas in TBC, I feel like once again there's like so many consumes and this potion and that potion, this potion, all of the stuff. I feel like the amount of consumes, like in terms of like individual consumes that we use, is reduced. Like we still use bunch of consumes, but it's like no, it's like potion and flask, right? And like or maybe in this potion, it's like potion of potion of speed or potion of wild magic. It's not like 15 different potions that you need to have and 3 different food buffs and I don't know, like for example, my prot paladin, I have a stamina food and have spell power food. And that's not going to be a thing, right? I think I also had one more, but I don't remember. I had something. I had something as well. A different food buff, I don't know. I think I was using it for like a specific scenario or something like that. And then the same goes for like flask. Oh, here is a spell damage flask. Here is a stamina flask. Here is an iteration with elixirs. And then you just have a bunch of these consumed. I'm not saying that there's not going to be certain cases in Wrath, but it's not it doesn't feel as mandatory in Wrath, right? And for those niche scenarios, right? A lot of classes are going to be like more than fine. Like you will not feel the difference almost. Like if you just go everyone flask, everyone fish feast, and everyone either wild magic and haste or indestructible, like you will not feel a difference that much in a raid performance. Compared to someone using a specific food and maybe hit food, or like specific, like different potion, not really different potion, but I guess it is food or maybe an elixir, but yeah.
Yeah, like you're not gonna feel like a huge difference if you don't go out of your way to buy 40 gold flame caps for your fire mage or your demo lock or whatever you're trying to min-max on.
Yeah.
Or if you don't go to Ungoro to get the crystals there that give you like 12 spell power or something and pop that on pull. Just like the ridiculous little tiny things that people do to min-max and Wrath. Or using NG bombs, between your spells. It's all like so minute, less than 0.5% of damage. So like that is kind of refreshing because you have a couple things in your bags to look at. You have your flask. You don't typically have to worry about food because of fish feast, and then you're really good to go. Flask and pot.
And fish feast is beneficial for so many different hybrid classes. Like if you think about like red paladins and let's say enhancement shamans to be specific, right? They dip into both, right? Like sure, you could get strength instead of attack power on your red paladin, but you get both because it covers both. So all of your like melee hybrids, they dip into both, so it can end up being ever so slightly a little bit better.
For sure, Spellhands loves them a fish feast.
I wouldn't even dare to say if you really want to be sweaty and you're meleeing in between your casts, like you leave that 0.01 second between your casts and you perfectly sweat it. It's also probably DPS increased because you're getting extra attack power on your melee swing and you're also proccing Judgment of Light and Judgment of Wisdom at the same time. And heck, you even might, between the casts, you even might get the clear casting proc, which is even more beneficial. So if you're fishing clear casting procs, you're going to get 4 extra DPS around about from fish feast then instead of just pure spell damage food. Sorry, spell power food. There you go. There you go. Fish feast is the greatest. Point proven.
For all those auto attack weavers.
But yeah, man. I'm just looking at. Let me just swap it on the stream. I'll just swap to this screen. Let's finish the first point. We love to rant, but yeah, man. Yeah. That's what we're here for. The guy says you also asked about emblems. It is important to remember that emblems dropped from bosses in both dungeons and raids throughout Wrath of the Lich King. Prior to the introduction of the Dungeon Finder in patch 3.3, there was also daily quest targeting a specific dungeon that awarded bonus emblems, which is what the random Dungeon Finder bonus replaced. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the quest that you're gonna pick up in Dalaran from the mage in Violet Hold, next to the Violet Hall rather, it only rewards Valor, no? Or does it reward Valor and Heroism?
So there's two different quests. One of them is I don't know, it's specific to trash mobs in the heroic dungeon. So you kill some trash and turn it in and get heroism. And then the other side is the Valor quest, where you kill the last boss and you get Valor.
Correct. How much heroism do you get, though? Do you remember the amount?
I believe it's 1 heroism and it's 2 Valor. So the daily, I want to say, is 1 for the trash mobs.
That's barely even worth it picking up the quest.
No, I know. But you get a reputation consumable from it. So I think that's kind of
very much true.
Most people's intention there. And I mean, I've been babied by private servers as far as Sons of Hodier goes. You know, that shit is usually completely broken on every server, and you don't have to end up actually farming out the reputation. You complete the quest line and you magically become exalted, rather than having any use for Relic of Oldar or farming dailies, or even the Sons of Hodier turn-in on that reputation vendor, or sorry, that daily quest giver.
Yeah, very much true. I think that daily dungeon quest, not the one for Valor, for Heroism. Yeah, I think you can also choose Sons of Hodier. Like, you think you have 5 factions. You have the Wormcrest Temple. Sorry, you have
You got Ebon Blade,
Ebon Blade,
Argent,
yeah. I think there's 5, and
Argent
one of them is
Kirin Tor, and then Sons of Hodier. Yeah, so you got your 4 major reputations and then Sons. And I think as far as value goes, Sons of Hodier will really be the only thing worth turning in your reputation there, because you're kind of griefing if you don't have a tabard for the other ones at that point.
Yeah, for sure. I think the other ones, I think it's going to be smooth sailing. Equip a tabard. That's going to take a day, maybe 2, when you're exalted, right? Whereas the other ones, specifically Sons of Hodier, that one's going to be a yikes, man. You got to do those daily quests for God knows how long. And then the turn-ins, and then the Relics of Uldor. See, that's why I always play tank, man. 10k owner, boom. Just give me the stamina, Resi. I here, I'm done.
Yeah, I don't think you noticed, but I think for the first 3 weeks of raid, I didn't even do the quest chain on my Boomy and had the spell power resilience shoulder enchant.
Yeah, no, I didn't notice. I just saw green text and spell power. Yeah, the Winter Grasp one.
Exactly. I just went full lazy, and it's funny because like it's so goddamn easy on Warmane. Like, you don't have to go out of your way at all. You get a ton of gold because of the increased gold and all that, and I just really had no excuse. But in Classic, I think there kind of will be a legitimate excuse. It's a whole lot of time, and that is going to incentivize gold buying, or just, cause general inflation, because Relic of Oldar is going to be quite the commodity.
Yeah, it's going to be the next most wanted thing after Darkmoon card greatness, or Noble's deck rather.
It's a universal thing that everyone needs. Unlike, not everyone needed the Coil Fang reputation. Not everyone needed Cenarian reputation, but you still see what the price of armaments and reputation turn-ins like that go for. This is going to be universal in heavy demand and being heavily farmed.
I would imagine it's going to be giga expensive early. You know what? Because like if it's buying an account, here is a tip. I already covered like top 5 leveling tips, but here is a giga lazy, like scummy. I don't care. Blame me if you want it. Here's a giga scummy tip, guys. Get Winter Grasp Shoulder enchant because it's like so easy to get it. And do not get Hodir until like Cold War. And then once everyone is exalted and doesn't care anymore, and it's just like, using bind on account shoulder enchants, and once the Relic of Uldar goes down in price, like tenfold, that's when you buy Relics of Uldar, and then you're like, ka-ching, yep, 500 gold exalted.
Exactly. Leave the early Sons of Hodir grind for the world first racers and the 100 parsers.
I don't know, like I would say we're a pretty hardcore guild, but I think we both have kind of the mindset of like, yo, it's just not worth it, dude. Like you could be doing 10 things that more with your class that are so much more worth it than like 15 crit. Like there's
spend that time farming pre-pots.
Yeah.
Like if you really want to make a higher value to time difference, spend a bit of time, farm some gold, pre-pot in your next snacks, pop before patchwork. It's gonna do more than that 15 crit will ever get you.
Yeah, exactly. Like
unless you're playing Affliction, and then things kind of change for me. That 15 crit is 15 crit on your corruption snapshot. I don't know, man. That's the whole fight right there.
We just talked about it though. It does matter for some classes more, and doesn't matter as much for some other classes, that's for sure. For example, for tanks, if you're Scryer, it's also what I covered in the 5 tips video. You get 15 defense rating by being exalted from Scryer, and you get 15 defense rating by being exalted with Sons of Hodir. So here's the thing. There's only dodge difference. Newsflash, you don't really give a shit about 20 dodge that much. Now, sure, you're min-maxing as fuck, right? If you're actually min-maxing, here's what makes sense. Sure, you're gonna get it, but here's the thing, guys. You're not using Sons of Hodir as a tank, right? You're using the PvP shoulder enchant, 30 stamina, 15 resilience, which is what I also think is like you really don't need Sons of Hodir as a tank. You need defense cap for the first week. Okay, Scryer enchant. The moment you've cleared your first next 10 and your first next 25, done. PvP enchant, thank you, goodbye. Just save yourself gold. It's not worth it, man. Like, legitimately, that 20 dodge. Like, there's so many different things that you could do better in a fight. The 20 dodge, like, you won't feel it different. Like, even right now, like, we had the discussion. I had a discussion with Turbo. We're tracking, like, certain things that no one else is tracking or tracks. Like ancestral healing, aka help me with the priest name.
Inspiration.
aka inspiration, thank you. Like not a lot of people tracking that. Like, what's the uptime? Is it up on the main tank? Like stuff like that. There's like so many things that should be tracked, right? Like, what about your Demo Shout? Are you keeping your Demo Shout up? They're like, track that instead, man. Like focus. In my opinion, I'm not saying that you shouldn't sweat when it comes to min-maxing your character sheets. I think it's giga important to min-max your character sheet, but there's like certain things where like I think a lot of people put so much pressure on it. It's like, hold on, wait a minute, play clean first. Like, don't spend like every single day chasing freaking Sons of Hodir. Are you sure like you're not getting hit in the back? Are you sure like you're kiting properly? Hey, do an extra normal dungeon. Like, are you sure like that your gear set's looking properly? Like, don't sweat Sons of Hodir and just spend like a week just sweating it. Like, you'll be fine. Make sure that your fundamentals are clean. That's the kind of advice I would give to so many tanks that I see. Like, position the bosses properly. Pay attention to your melee. Like, are they parrying? Like, talk with your melee. Be like, hey, Muppet, you're hitting the boss from the front. I'm exerting energy and positioning this boss cleanly. The guys, stuff like that. There's so many things that you could do. And even in hardcore guilds, like, a lot of players just fuck up, man. Like, all the time. So, yeah, man, as I said, like, Wrath is the perfect expansion where playing cleanly rewards you so much.
I agree. And, like, that time in general just could be spent better elsewhere. for the most part, for most players, that is. You know, like you said, you could set up, you know, perfect your game first. You could set up your UI. You could look through the many weak auras that will be available for Wrath Classic and make sure that you're tracking exactly what you want. You could spend the time learning how to create your own weak auras even, and customize your UI to a point where, you know, you're more comfortable with it and you're playing better. That's going to be a lot more valuable than Sons of Hodir dailies if you're not already at that point where there's nothing else you can min-max, there's nothing else you can improve gear-wise, UI-wise, playstyle-wise. Then sure, you know, just do the mindless grind.
Yeah, once again, just to clarify, it's not like don't do Sons of Hodir, but it's like don't tunnel vision it. That's kind of
low
the point.
Priority.
Yeah,
just lower priority.
Yeah, just like don't be an ostrich and in the fucking sand, because like that's not gonna do anything for you really. But yeah, as I said, to end the bullet point, they're fucking up RDF, and it's a fuck up. It is what it is. I'm just gonna say it's a fuck up, and I think it also has to do with the boost. They have a level 70 boost, and to say what it is, maybe, you know, they're malicious, having malicious. Well, it's not necessarily malicious, but strategic. You know, I guess that's the correct word, where they're maximizing their profit, right? You don't get to spam your dungeons, you don't get to get as much XP potentially as you could. You could get the satchel where you would get a bunch of nice gear, really, really good gear while you're leveling. Your alts 1 to 60, or even 60 to 70 for the matter, right? And you need to spend more time leveling, therefore your leveling process is longer, therefore the value of buying level 70 boost is automatically higher. So what ends up happening, in my opinion, is they're like pushing you more and more into the hole of just buying that boost. Just swipe, just get the boost, right? And it's hard to justify not to, right? Like who wants to go freaking 1 to 70 again? Just buy the boost, right? You get a finished character. Okay, I got a mount. Alright, I need to do some professions. Yeah, sure, I'll buy a level 70. Let me just do professions. Boom, I'm ready. There you go. It's that easy, and it's gonna cost like what, $20? And when you think about it, like how much time would you have to spend grinding, like mindlessly grinding 1 to 70? Like it's hard to justify not to buy the boost, and it goes hand in hand. And I think like we should kind of move away from the mindset of, oh, just buy the boost. But that's what makes them money, right? Our sub is not just enough anymore, right? It's just, it's our subscription is not just enough. They want more. And that instead of maybe increasing mob XP times 2, for example, instead of doing that, they'll just remove RDF, give us boost. Which is like, how is the game not pay to win? Right? Like, it kind of is pay to win if you think about it. Like, specifically in terms of herbalism and inscription. You can get the druid, you get the free fly mount, right? Just get herb, get inscription, and make a couple of alts. Boom, voila! I'm just farting Darkmoon cards out of my fucking druid's ass. So like, it's kind of hard not to say. It's kind of not, you know, it kind of is pay to win mentality. Whereas you might think, oh, like you're gonna make leveling irrelevant. Nah, you're gonna make leveling even more relevant. Remove the boost, but give double mob XP, right? Double mob and quest XP, right? Times 2 essentially.
Like that exactly what you're saying is just pushing people further and further into the mindset of, you know, how much time can I spend outside of this game making the amount of money to spend on this stupid old game that I would have to spend grinding for hours. You know, like you compare your value to time ratio, and Blizzard is putting that thought into people's brains. It's through the decisions they're making too. It's not like it's not the player base. I think generally speaking, the community as a whole, especially at first with Classic, has been like vehemently against gold buying, boosting, botting, but it's kind of just been like this defeated mindset. More and more and more, you have people that are just completely caving in, people that had previously refused to spend a dime on the game outside of their subscription. They're gold buying, they're participating in GDKPs, they're buying boosts for themselves, and like 1.5 years ago, these same people would completely look down on that exact type of behavior.
Yeah, 100% I agree with the statement, 100%. And it's kind of like, yo, if I'm gonna just buy a boost and I'm gonna make my life easier, right? And it's kind of like, well, why wouldn't you swipe in my gold? Everyone's doing it, right? Who cares? Oh, like, bro, like, I need to do what? I need to grind how long? I need to mine for how long to get my consumes? Bro, here, how much is 2k gold? What you want? You want $15? Right here, okay, boom, I'm done for a month. 15 extra $15, I don't care, you know. And then like some poor guy from China or Venezuela or something like gets his like monthly salary or something. It's like, it just goes hand in hand, man. And then all of those people who are also botting, they're like, oh yeah, I get a 70 boost, oh hamada, and I get to go skinning those fat rhinos in freaking Borean Tundra on a hunter, because like you just tame a freaking what's it face. I remember them back in the day, dude. That's what they would do. They would tame a spirit beast, not spirit beast. Frick, my brain's not working the smartest today. Might be because I had a blow in the head, but I think it's spirit beast. Correct me if I'm wrong. Exotic beast. Sure. Sorry, it's exotic beast.
Oh yeah.
But there is spirit beast, but it's exotic beast. They're like everywhere. For example, you can get the devil sword, and it's just gonna like devour those freaking rhinos, and you can just skin them over and over and over again. And you know, eventually, like you might get Arctic fur, which is super valuable, and you just have like hunter that doesn't care about anything. They don't need a lot of hits. Like their shots don't they can be dodged or parried. You know.
Yeah, they have the highest chance to hit against higher level mobs, dude. It's so easy for a hunter to, like, a hunter bot can make back the money that they spent on the original boost in a matter of days. Like, it's silly.
Yeah, literally a matter of days. You could just let a hunter bot run a freaking Borean Tundra, and for a couple of days they're gonna make thousands of gold, thousands and thousands of gold. They don't care. Like, it's that freaking easy. Like, literally, because we've seen some of this shit on private servers as well, where you would just have hunter bots run rampant, right? Like, all of these hunter bots, they just don't care. They just keep going, man. Like, the pets don't even need healing because they have self-healing. Like, you can, you know, like, you can, like, min-max freaking talents for that. And it's we've seen that, like, on so many private servers. Not on Warming because they get giga clap, but, like, look at Synergy. Like, it was hilarious, dude. It was hilarious, my guy. Some of the botting there.
Pretty comparable to Classic, honestly.
True. Shit scripts, meme community. You're right.
Yeah. Oh man, that's how I feel playing Classic a lot of the time. It's like, god damn, this private server is scripted terribly.
I know, right?
Why is my feared mob running at 300% speed? Why does it take double his fucking health pool to break the fear? Shit like that, dude. I'm baffled how that gets through quality control. Which intern? Which fucking intern?
Dude, here is something that Crick said yesterday that kind of was surprising to me. There's called Darkmoon Card Crusade, I believe it's called. The one from TBC, which gives you both attack power and spell damage, right? He has it on his Warlock, and apparently life tap is supposed to proc it. Anyway, you can pre-proc it like illustration. And apparently they made it so in TBC Classic where that is not the case. Like, you cannot pre-stack it or some shit, or it's not as easy. And it's like, if you read Wowhead comments from back in the day, because everything was like meshed together, Thoughtbot, Alakazam, they just bought it out, right? If you read the comments, and it's like, that was the case back in the day. You could pre-stack it. Why can't you do it now? Oh, because they changed it. And it's like such a stupid change, in my opinion. It's like, why? Why
Those
would
are
you?
not the changes I'm looking for. Absolutely not.
Yeah, but it makes like, why would, out of all of the things, why would you change the freaking Darkman card?
It's silly. I think a lot of these things, it's like, it's not even that they changed it, because sometimes there's the assumption of they have this original TBC from retail, like a working product that they can magically port over all the content from. In reality, we have this Legion based classic client that they have to go back, dig through all of the code, all the comments, all the repositories, and try and emulate it to accuracy. And I think that there's just a lot of oversight. Like, I think that in the process of porting it all over, they miss shit, and it takes so long for them to recognize the problem, attempt to fix it, or they take the other route of pretending like they removed it from the game on purpose, in any sense of the word. And I don't know. I'm not entirely convinced a lot of the time.
By the way, the current TBC Classic client is on par with Shadowlands client. For example, if you download, I have 9.0 version of Auto Sell Scrap. It's like an add-on which sells gray shit, like gray loot. I have that. I have like literally Shadowlands version, and I just pasted it into the folder for TBC. And I also have Move Anything. I have the Shadowlands version, and I also just pasted it into TBC, and magically fucking works.
Voila. Yeah, I mean, unless I'm mistaken, I think Legion was like their big core change, and
yeah.
I'm not sure if they've had another huge update like that since. So I think it's possible that those add-ons would work on Legion and BFA as well.
Speaking of course, this is a good moment to segue into another talking point of this podcast. You're quite an experienced consumer of private servers, and you know a little bit about the cores. Now, I really want to highlight this moment because I think a lot of viewers don't have the knowledge or any kind of info what differentiates the private servers and how do they work in the background, and how are these private servers made and what makes them tick, right? And the biggest reason for that is the core. Now, what is a core? Is basically a subset of code which dictates how are the NPCs or spells or different things that interact in the game, how are they going to behave, right? And how are they going to interact with each other? What's their relationship?
What makes the game tick?
What makes the game tick, and what makes the world of Warcraft live. On that note, I'll pass the mic to you, and let's enjoy the segue.
Yeah, I mean, I just gotta give a little bit of a disclaimer, just because a lot of the information in general that you can consume about the private server scene is hearsay, he said, she said. There's not a whole lot of confirmation on a lot of things, so you kind of just have to use your brain and jump to conclusions sometimes. So I don't think anyone knows the full story. Like, I don't think that's like reasonable. But for the most part, I think that some people have a pretty good take on the both good collaboration that has gone on in the private server scene, and then the more nasty collaboration, like stealing other people's cores and information and etc. But I think going into Wrath, especially with people with previous private server experience, they have to approach some things differently, because depending on whatever server you play it on, you potentially played on a completely different version of the game. Like, like we recently stopped playing Synergy, which is pretty much just Atlantis core purchased by the Synergy owners and bastardized into what it is now. If you look at most of the Atlantis GitHub bugs, you can almost 100% accurately match them to any bug that Whitemane or Synergy has ever experienced. So like that, beside the owner, admitting that they bought the core from them and that they're great friends with Atlantis, etc., kind of all solidifies that, And the damage numbers that you see, some of the broken classes that you see, like Assassination Rogue, for example, doing far too much damage with poisons. It's not all going to reflect the same in Wrath Classic. I think the current most accurate core for Blizz-like content, as far as anything that's popular, anything where information will actually be based off, is the current Warmane server. I know it has, many flaws, but if you're looking strictly from comparing to a Blizz-like standpoint, if you want to base things off anything, I think that's your starting point.
Yeah,
like what are some of the examples you've seen in the Synergies, or I guess Gaga or Satowski's rendition of the Synergy core?
First of all, what bothers me the most is the way they script their bosses. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that the stuff that you see on Warmane and Frostmourne, that everything is like 100% clean. Like, there's still a lot of stuff that is like giga memey on Warmane, but it is much closer to original scripting than whatever you've seen on Synergy. So, for example, Loatheb is the most meme fucking shit I've seen from any private server ever. It just trucks. It trucks tanks on 10 men. It trucks tanks on 25 men. It just deals absolutely insane amount of damage. Like, to the point where you can't even do the mechanic properly, right? It's just like, it's almost impossible to do the mechanics properly.
Not to mention it being able to parry haste you. It's like that's a whole added layer of RNG that should not be in that fight, especially when you're talking about the boosted damage.
Yeah, it's especially on Loatheb. Like, parry haste should not be a thing. Like, it's just not a freaking thing, right? And it's like, you want to play Wrath and you want to play with some like custom changes, like quality of light changes. Maybe, transmog and better leveling and race shift and stuff like that. And then you enter the raid and you're like, dude, this just makes no sense. It's just stupid scripting. Like, okay, increase the damage a little bit. Make healing harder somehow, right? Make HP, like, I know it's like, oh yeah, increase HP, it's stupid. But yes, like, we reached a point where stock HP is just too low.
Yeah, they managed to fuck that up so bad that we have like all these people thinking that 2 prop paladins and 2 holy paladins is necessary in Nax 25. Like, that sort of like insane boosted content like drives this mindset,
It's insane. It's absolutely insane. It's one of the most insane statements I've heard is like what you just said. It's like 2 holy paladins and 2 prop paladins for Nax. It's such a joke. It's such a meme. Like, you should never need it. It's not even optimal
on some other servers.
It's not even optimal. If you think about it, it's not even optimal. How is it optimal? Where do you need 2 holy paladins in Nax? Well, which boss fight do you require 2 holy paladins? It makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah, I mean, when you have other buffs, like you have, supporting issues that causes too. You have prot warriors not generating enough threat with Devastate. The bug never gets recognized, never gets fixed. Devastate threat is like 70% lower than it should be. Like, how are you not supposed to run 2 holy paladins or prop paladins at that point? Like, that is another supporting bug that continues to drive this mindset. So, like, through shitty players, shitty scripting, just like a culmination of factors, people base it off that with their previous experience. They try to apply it to the new private server that they're playing. They try and apply it to the new classic server that they're playing. It's not going to go very far for them.
No, it won't at all. And it's like same thing with protection warriors. I'll just throw in this example. For a while, it was considered, and I still think is, that protection warrior is the best solo tank for LOD. Like, it was just the go-to on the Icecrown server. They simply have run Icecrown Citadel to the point where, like, okay, yeah, if you want a solo tank Lich King, like, yeah, your protection warrior is gonna be, like, really good there on that specific fight. And somehow we've reached the point where protection warriors are shit you should never bring, they never play, just don't fucking touch the class ever. And it's like, wait, hold a moment. There's a group of people, there's been guilds, there's been raiders that have done the hardest fight in this game. They've done 30% buff, 0% buff solo tank Lich King. You can't just say, oh yeah, well, they can clear all of the wait, hold your horses. What do you mean? They can kill the hardest boss effectively as a solo tank? And you're saying never bring one? You're a fucking retard if you bring a protection warrior. Like, hold your horses. That statement is retarded in itself. You can't call literally they're doing something that the person who is making the comment has never done or will do in their lifetime. So it's like, who is saying that the protection warrior is shit? There have been protection warrior players in guilds who have done tremendous achievements with it. As I said, solo tank Lich King. And then the person who has never killed Lich King in their life on a server that's not scripted by complete Muppets and raiding with other Muppets is making the statement. And it's like, once again, hold your horses. You never killed Lich King on Warmane. You only done it in like fucking meme shit or when you were piloting garbage. So how is your opinion exactly valid if you have never experienced, the content? Because the game completely changes, right? The game goes like 6,500 gear score gaming and like 5,200 gear score gaming, which is like tier 9 equivalent BIS or roundabout plus minus, is like also completely different. Like, it's not comparable exactly, is it? And it's
you're playing a different game.
Yeah, and it's like stuff like that where it just begs the question, man. Like, I don't know. Like, I was a prot warrior hater myself for the longest time ever. But at the same time, we used the prot war on Frostmourne on progression. We progressed fully through boosted freaking TOC 25, man, where I had 10 complete Muppets in my raid. And I mean that. I had 10 complete Muppets. And we fully progged it, right? And guess what? I had another Blood Decay and there was like no difference. Because like the guy knew what he was doing and he played well. And it was sufficient. It made like literally no difference. The only thing that was different is when I had the Blood Decay, the other fucking guy needed to sunder more often, and because he's a fucking Muppet, he didn't sunder either. So it's like, I think there's, the whole thing, Ardent Defender and stuff like that, and it's going to save your tank's life and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, sure, Ardent Defender is amazing and all, but maybe you should heal your tank instead. Maybe instead of using Flash of Light, maybe you should use Holy Light if you still have 60% mana left and the boss is on 30% HP and you have 4 Innervates left and you haven't used Mana Hymns either. Maybe there's like just so many other tools to consider which you're not using, and defaulting to Ardent Defender is amazing, therefore use it. Maybe L2P is the issue. Just maybe,
Potentially. Yeah, I mean, like, Ardent is just a failure in general. Like, there's almost 0 bosses in the game where you completely, like, your strategy is based around Ardent. Like, that is your oh shit, your healer's fucked up, or your tank fucked up, potentially. And it's, your get out of jail free card, but it's like, why were you in jail in the first place? Do you have a good excuse to have Ardent proccing? Are you running 2 healers? Like, what's going on? Like, you better have, if you're in the mindset of, oh, we can't do this without Ardent, we need Ardent, you better be running like 2 healers or something.
Yeah, exactly. And it's stuff like, here's an example. If you're a Muppet and you fail Void Zone in Obsidian Sanctum and your Ardent Defender saves you from being one-shot by a Void Zone, yeah, Ardent Defender is pretty good if you fail at elementary mechanics. Now, once again, this is coming from someone who's done this content over and over and over again. And yeah, Ardent Defender might make it better for you in that specific encounter, but that's still saying, like, I can't execute the mechanic, I need this thing to save me, and I'll bring you this. I'll say I would even like, if I was actually dude, if I was actually a server owner, I would be such a piece of shit. I would make void zones fucking hit twice.
Yeah, you would.
I would.
Yeah,
I would.
You definitely wouldn't be a piece of shit server owner. That is disgusting.
I would make void zones hit twice. So if you are a protection paladin, no, you're dying. No, you fucked up. You wiped the raid. You ain't gonna get carried by this stupid fucking talent, specifically in void zones. If the boss is trucking you, sure, you can use it there. It was meant for that. But like, to save you from void zones like that, nah, homie, you're going down.
Yeah, it should never be used on a player fuck up. But like, I don't know. Like, don't get me wrong. I would never underrate the value of a prop paladin. I understand that they bring an incredible amount of utility. They're tanky as fuck, but like, we gotta start shifting our mindset toward classic. The bosses don't hit that hard compared to the content we're used to. They don't have as much health, so your healers will have plenty of mana to continually spam your tank the entire time. Do you really need Ardent? No. What you're gonna need is a huge threat. Like, you're not wasting tricks on your tanks in Wrath. You're gonna be using those on your warlocks and your pumpers. It's like, do you really want, like, the most gimped single target threat in the first couple tiers, main tanking and having to shatter early on or call out for salves and create all this other nonsense that is just totally unnecessary because you refuse to try out another tank?
Yeah, that's also a discussion that we had specifically because we have a protection paladin on our roster. It's like, people say, like, a lot of people have said, like, vigilance is dog shit. Well, how is vigilance dog shit? It's literally a better version of Hand of Salvation. It's Hand of Salvation on steroids, if you think about it, right? For example,
it's constant Hand of Salvation, and it gives you threat. It's double conundrum.
It's like, you're doing 4 horsemen and you're doing the nuke strat. It's so much easier to do it on warrior, like, with revenge, just deleting freaking bosses. Like, I have 10k revenge, sorry. I have a 12k revenge hit sometimes. I put vigilance on a demolock, like, my job is done. I'm doing the same boss fight on a paladin. I'm like, okay, tap, okay, here, tap, okay, that, fuck, no, he's claiming on cross, okay, tap here, fuck, go back to skull, okay, consecration, okay, fuck, cross, no, I need to shield of righteousness, the cross, okay, back to skull, hammer here, okay, fuck, no, okay, Avengers, okay, I need to do shield now on this, okay, now back to cross, okay, switch the seal. Okay, salvation, this guy, fuck, no, this guy's high, god damn it, dude, do you have vanish? Okay, fuck, you got vanish, and all of you already shattered without me saying anything, right? It's like, just comparing, like, 4 horsemen, protection paladin, to, like, protection warrior point of view, it's not even close, dude. It really is not even close, like, in the slightest. Like, I would need at least, like, 300, 400 gear score more to be on the same page, and that's, like, with, like, threat gear score, so to speak. It's just really here's the closing statement of freaking paladins. I don't know how we managed to get into this shit yet again, but they're the best off tank and they're the best solo tank. what I mean by solo tank is, if you have to choose a single tank to tank every single boss encounter, Prot Paladin is probably going to be your best choice. Why? Because no other tank has as much AoE. Specifically huge AoE, right? Your consecration is still banging, dude, right? You have to think about what does your seal of command do throughout the whole entire of the fight, and if you have glyphed hammer of the righteous, like just how much threat it's gonna do, right? It's absolutely insane. Now that being said, on certain clear fights, warrior might be, a little bit better. If it's like 2 or 3 targets, warriors are really fucking good, like really good, like 2 or 3 targets, like, and then everything that's 4 and more, that's where paladins really start, picking up quite a bit.
Warrior feels really good on Iron Council when you're tanking too.
True. You can interrupt and dispel.
Exactly. You're like, you have quite the value on that fight. Plus, if you're doing 10-man, like, you can tank that with almost nothing. Shit doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
Hard mode easy.
True. You just zog the first one. Well, you're constantly zogging, but kill the first one. You can use some CDs, and after that, like, you can even intervene if there's the AoE lightning damage. You can intervene out of that.
After healing it with Prot Paladins tanking, like, I kind of clenched going into tanking Iron Council for the first time on Warrior, and I was just like, this isn't gonna work, But I don't know, surprised, man. You get all this flack, you hear all these things, and then you get into the field and you have a working brain. You compress your cooldowns, and it's not as bad as everyone makes it out to be.
Yeah, it really isn't. As I said, I feel like a lot of the stuff that's being thrown out there, like protection warriors shit, never bring them. They're just garbage. And then it's, but you can do all of the content. Like, no, it's a big underestimation. Not only can you do all of the content, but even protection warrior is gonna shit on your paladin in certain situations. Sure, is the paladin going to be better than the warrior in some fights? Absolutely. Is the warrior going to be 10 times better on some fights than protection paladin? Absolutely, my guy. Without a shred of a doubt. Vezax, for example, you have nothing to do that on that fight as protection paladin. Nothing. As an GTFO.
True.
Any serious fucking raid that actually wants to do Vezax properly, you can forget your fucking Vezax. Like, not even kidding. Like, tell me in which world is Protection Paladin better on Vezax than Protection Warrior? Like, that world does not exist. It just doesn't.
The world where tanks stand in the green, bro.
True, but it's like, even like Bear is amazing on that fight. Like DK is amazing on that fight. But Protection Paladin is just ass. Simply, they just doesn't have mana. They don't have threat. They're just ass. And even half of the time they're freaking out of range. They can't even salve because like the range is too far away or some shit.
Exactly.
Happened to me.
People that you can salve are Affliction Locks who are already shattered because they're standing right next to their friendly neighborhood rogue, fucking praying for tricks.
Yeah. And there's stuff like that. Like, Prot Paladin is really good on Freya. It's fucking amazing on Freya. But then again, like, you could bring a Prot War. Hey, you put Vigilance something, you're just like fucking, you're popping off, you're interrupting the ad, you can stun the ads, AoE stun the ads, it's a lower cooldown. Not that Divine Protection is not amazing on Freya, but like, it's also where like you look at Protection Warrior and it's like, damn, they're also good on Freya and stuff like that. Like, I don't know. I think Prot Pal is really valuable on Yogg. I think they have some value on Yogg as well that they bring, because I could for sure when it comes to kiting stuff, Prot Paladin does it better than Prot War, 1,000,000%. Like, 1,000,000% by far. They have.
Nothing's changed there.
Yeah. So it's like, once again, like, it has its pluses, it has its minuses, but it's not like, oh, if you play Protection Warrior, you're a retard. I think that statement is just fucking stupid. Like, you haven't played on Warmate, you don't know the story of the class, you don't know the story of the servers of progression, of the tier recrafting, with everything that has been done. You know, the only thing that you know is to paper cutters and you can do 10k DPS. And that's just about as stupid as it gets. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't mean to fully detract you from, anytime we bring up Prop Paladin and Protection Warrior, it's like such a subject that I think both of us could go on forever about. But the whole 10k DPS assassination rogue thing with paper cutters, I don't know, that kind of just reminds me that I think people should just beware. You know, a lot of the content that is available to consume in Wrath, it's a lot of it's based off misconceptions and poorly scripted servers. Like, you're not gonna have the same internal cooldowns on your trinkets as you would on a lot of these servers. You're not gonna have reduced chance to proc some important vital talents that make other classes strong, whereas some classes just get the better end of the stick and just scale unimaginably with these broken internal cooldowns. I'll give the Tailoring Cloak for example. On the last two servers I played on before, just disregarding Frostmourne in general, they had the most broken tailoring enchant procs. Like, testing this shit, I had over 60% uptime on the spell power cloak and over 50% uptime on the AP cloak. So in conclusion, it's 2 to 3 times better than it is Blizz-like, right? And tailoring magically becomes the best profession for every single class. Now, I'm not saying that like people are gonna be basing what professions you get off of synergy, for example, because a lot of that information is just regurgitated from Warmane. But that is like the extreme end of things. Like, people are not necessarily privy to a lot of this. They just read the logs, they read other people's DPS, they look at what they're using, and they go from there. Like, I can't tell you how Wrath Classic will work. I don't know if Fel Synergy is gonna accurately proc Egg, for example.
Yeah.
If Egg is an actual thing, like, I would be happy about it. Like, I think it's Blizz-like. It's the intended function of the spell. You get healing done to your pet, it procs your trinket, etc. But like, I'm not sure if we'll see that in Wrath Classic. Like, I don't know how far they'll go into ensuring things like that play out like they used to.
And there's also a thing that I would like to say this right now, is I don't trust Blizzard to give us proper scripting and proper procs and everything and stuff like that. I think you guys need to think about it. Every single trinket proc and ICD needs to be tested. Right? And there's a lot of PPM. There's at the very least 400 hours of nothing but testing and testing and testing and just pure Q&A. Is this trinket proc correct? Is this talent correct? Is this snapshotting correct? Is this correct? Is this correct? Like, there's I'm not kidding. There's just pure 10 weeks. There's nothing but 2.5 months of like backporting or front porting or whatever this client and just testing this raid and this mechanic. Like, for example, the snapshotting with warlocks that you said is like, is corruption being snapshot properly? And all of this,
like, will it be multiplicative? Will it be additive? How is Malagos Spark gonna work? Are we gonna see? Because like, what's supposed to happen, since let's use 2 Malagos Sparks for example. It's 2 separate debuffs, as you know. Like, you can see both pop up on your screen. One of them says increases damage by 50%. The other says increases damage by 50%. So you'd assume, oh, that's a 100% damage increase. I'm now doing 2 times more damage. No, that is not how that works. It takes 50% of 150%, your first buff, right? So now you're at 150% more damage. It takes 50% of that 150, adds it on to 150, and now you're doing like way more. It's like this multiplicative scaling is kind of how a lot of classes rely on doing insane damage with external buffs. You throw tricks into the equation, you're now taking 50% of 150%, adding it on top, and then you take an entire 15% of that total value and add it to the top. You're not just adding, 50%. It multiplies itself first before adding.
Yeah. And
so you basically just have like these broken scaling with, Thaddeus, Malagos, Tricks and Death's Embrace, for example, the 15 and the 12%. It's not 27%, it's 29% because of how that scaling works. That is just like the lowest end of the spectrum of an example. What will it be in TBC or in Wrath Classic? Like, are they going to accurately do that? Is Affliction going to be broken in that sense?
Yeah, that's a big question. Like, are they going to test that? Are they going to fix this? Like, how many bugs did we report in TBC beta? And they haven't done anything about it. Like, there's so many bugs that have been reported in TBC beta, and they're just like, they haven't been fixed to this day. Like, to this day, nothing has been fixed. Like, it's kind of like weird that you still see some of these bugs running rampant to this day. Like, even like I made season of memory video where like all of the bugs were listed. Like, we get KT threat bug on launch, and then like they also broke Lady Vash on like their threat has been like all over the place and stuff like that. And it's like, how can you release bosses in such in such way? And if you think that as like bad, threat being fucked on a boss, imagine just like if they can get that right, what's gonna happen with other boss scripts? What's gonna happen with the sparks? Like, is the radius gonna be correct? Is what about the hitbox of the boss? Like, all of that needs to be tested, and I don't think that's gonna happen. I really don't think that's gonna happen because there's so much in Wrath. First of all, there's more talent points, and all of that needs to be tested. Now, let me just give you a simple example. Suppression has not worked. Suppression, which is the spell hit chance for warlocks, has been bugged. Like, how can it not work? Like, just randomly in middle of the expansion, suppression, it doesn't work. I just talked like the reality. Like, what do you mean suppression doesn't work? Oh, it doesn't work. It's bugged. Like, what the fuck do you like? I thought we play arena the next week. Is suppression still bugged? Yeah, it's still bugged. Like, what? Like, what do you mean? Like, what? Like, what? What do you mean suppression is still bugged? It's like, dude, it's bugged. Just like, chat has been bothering me this whole freaking time. I don't want to talk about it. I'm tilted. I just don't want to talk about it. I'm like, okay, dude, okay. Like,
we just cope. We just cope instead.
It's like, damn, dude. Like, suppression is bugged. What about the mischance for DKs that they get in the Frost Tree? Is that gonna be bugged randomly? What about parry chance for paladins? Is that gonna be bugged? What about vindication proccing? Now I can already tell you right now, I'm going to have like such a fucking bad time with vindication the way it's gonna proc.
What if fear is in the same fucking situation that it is in now, like the same condition? Like, how are we gonna manage things like, like our typical go-to is this guy gets MC'd, let's get some fears out. If fear works how it does in TBC, the dude MC'd who got feared is gonna run 300% speed across the room, probably into someone, and then pop out of his mind control and get potentially frost blasted. He could be in a void zone. Like how are you supposed to predict that when
Mana explosion?
Like such a basic ability like fear. Like how do you even fuck that up?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, from on one hand, like you're happy that you're getting the classic World of Warcraft. You're happy that it's a thing. You're happy that it's there and it's being made. And then the quality of the delivery is just fucking bad. Now, I don't know if classic vanilla, like, I would have to like talk to some like really fucking turbo nerds that like I don't know if like who has actually played like so much stuff. Like I know we briefly touched on Ironfall in a different conversation that we had, but I don't know if like we have enough info. Like, what was everything properly scripted? I would say predominantly that classic vanilla was okay from what I've seen when I played it and stuff like that. And there's also like, if you look at TBC, it's just a giant fuck up. I don't know what's wrong there, man. I don't know if they needed more time. Were they just pushing it out? It feels rushed, and I think that's the same with Wrath. Because if you remember at the time when TBC was coming out, they had the lawsuits, they had all of the like sexual violence allegations and rape allegations, and they had a lot of bad stuff in the media. The Blizzard was not doing good at all, right? They're
pretty wrapped up in other things.
Yeah, and they needed to rush TBC and be like, "Hey guys, Dark Portal, yippee-ki-yay," right? I feel like they're also pushing Wrath because, for whatever reason, they want to launch it this year and they want to look better for their investors, right? They want to look better for investors, and if they push Wrath, I think it's going to be better as well. And here's my conspiracy theory. I think they want to push Wrath because there are going to be seasonal events dropping certain items, and I think they want to I think they want to do it in such a way where it mirrors original launch, because they don't know how the fuck to even start coding that shit properly with it, like dropping or not dropping or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
That's also like a secret little thing that I have. Like my dirty little secret conspiracy theory is like Brewfest trinkets and stuff like that. Oh, also guys, speaking of jewel crafting, if the gems are not plus 51 stamina for tanks, don't even bother, dude. Brewfest is just behind the corner. You're gonna waste a bunch of fucking gold. Just save yourself. It doesn't even fucking matter. If you have enchanting, who gives a fuck? Just get a Brewfest trinket, you'll be fine. It doesn't even fucking matter. Just use Swiftness Potion on Anubrakan, you'll be fine. Literally that simple. Like, Brewfest trinkets are like 100 something fucking stamina. They're insane. Like, that's like specifically if you don't get the 51 stamp gems. If they nerf the stupid gems for whatever reason, just don't even bother with jewel crafting, guys. It's the biggest fucking meme, overhyped fucking shit on YouTube. Yes, amazing profession, but until confirmed that we're getting 51 stamina gems, not picking that shit up. But
yeah, I don't know. Most of the time I am told or read to go jewel crafting. I look into the other option and I end up coming to the conclusion that it's better.
Sorry, what's better?
Jewel crafting, just like whatever the other profession, the other contender is. Like, jewel crafting is really good for making up stats early on, right? Because you have those dragon eyes, but it's only better for a lot of specs simply because you don't have the epic gem option whatsoever. So you can get all this static stat out of these 3 dragon eyes. But if you're, I don't know, like in a lot of cases, if you're tracking your procs correctly, like for example boomkin and tailoring, like everywhere you read you're gonna see people telling you to go jewel crafting. I think tailoring is a lot more effective early on. Like, sure, you're supposed to go tailoring later on, after you get your epic gems, but when you're playing correctly, or even playing with, a slightly abnormal playstyle and correctly watching your procs, like, you can make up for whatever profession, in other ways.
Yeah, and if jewel crafting, as I said, doesn't give you those pumped up gems where you can get extra spell power, extra stamina, or even insane hit or something like that, right? If
It's
that's
not worth it.
yeah, it's literally not worth it, man. It's literally not worth it. Brewfest is in October, right? We're gonna have Brewfest event literally on launch or slightly after launch, right? Because I think like kind of the idea, or they might fuck us over and not give us, if they're gonna launch after October, right? Just give me a sec. Let me look at the calendar. June, July, August, September. I think.
I don't think they would launch after October.
Yeah, I don't think they're launching after October. I think we get Oktoberfest directly on launch, and I think we get Brewfest directly on launch, or early launch of Wrath of the Lich King, which means that you're getting trinkets for free. What would be actually super fucking interesting is if you could have Brewfest items while you're prepping for tier 7. That would be fucking hilarious. That would be just amazing. Just trinkets for free for everyone. Tanks would be just decked out, dude. Like extra 300 something stamina, just like that.
I don't know, that might feel kind of like memey to me, but at the same time, I am all for evening up the trinket game. You know, it's like, oh, I got lucky and I got this trinket, so I do X amount of more damage, because you know how valuable fucking early Wrath trinkets are.
No, and you can run double. You can for example, Mirror of the Truth gives you 84 crit. Correct me.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, Mirror of the Truth gives you. You know what? Let me just pull it on this. But I'm pretty sure that it's 1k attack power, right?
Yeah, it's 1k attack power and I think 84 crit. I think you were right there.
You know what? We're gonna pull this on the screen. We're gonna do palm, and we're gonna go here, and we're gonna put it on the stream on the screen. So, for example, what when I'm talking about Brewfest, or when we're talking about Brewfest, it's about this Mirror of the Truth, right? Let me zoom it even more. Full screen for everyone. Look at this. Beautiful. So yeah, it's 84 crit rating, which is 1.83% crit on level 80, and increases your melee or range crit. So that means hunters as well. You get 1k attack power. And here's the thing: there is a copy of this trinket, and I'm pretty sure the procs stack. What I mean is, it's a different proc, right? It's a different idea of the proc, which means that you can have the same trinket, and it can proc twice. At least that's how I remember them trinkets.
Oh yeah, that should definitely work that way.
Yeah, if that is the case, that's gonna be fucking broken. This is insane. Like, bunch of crit early and bunch of attack power early. Same goes for the spell power version. You're gonna get bunch of crit and bunch of spell power. Same goes for healers. Like, insane amount of spell power and double haste procs. Insane.
Demo locks are gonna get easy double spell power and buff the entire raid with it.
Yeah, or think about like even like Resto Shaman. Oh, Resto Shaman is shit. Oh, all of a sudden they have double haste proc trinkets. Oh, I don't know about that. Are they that bad? But yeah,
when the stars align.
That's also a point. Like, I think some of you might be thinking, oh, they're talking out of their ass or something like that. It's a scenario, I'm telling you. Brewfest trinket, Brewfest items, just it's a possibility, and no one has been talking about it, And after that, I think there's Love is in the Air. That's February. That's Valentine's Day. That's 2-6. Old War is gonna be out for sure. Now you're gonna get a bunch of necks for free as well. You're gonna get 2-6 necks. The only thing I don't think we're gonna get is the 2-3-2 staff that you can get from the winter event. I think because you had 2 winters. I think first winter there was a cloak. Oh, no, there were cloaks, and there's a possible staff, 2-3-2 staff that can drop. If you remember that from the Slave Pants boss.
Yeah, we won't see that the first time around at least, but we'll get there.
Yeah,
I mean, even if the Brewfest trinkets aren't, abyss or entirely that great for your class, like, the amount of effort it takes to get both the badge trinket and the aforementioned Brewfest trinkets, it's minimal, man. You can do it asleep.
Yeah. Anyway, to touch upon the cores a little bit more, is there anything you would wish to add about the cores and what makes the servers different?
Well, I mean, like, I can go into, you know, the specific cores and their history and all that, but that's like a pretty boring subject if you generally don't care. But I think that, you know, people, I'm gonna repeat myself. I just think that people should realize what information is based off of, you know, like what's the source, where is this all coming from, what core are they playing. Everything that someone says is not going to apply to your version of Wrath Private or your version of Wrath Classic. And I think anyone like claiming to know is just, they're not, I wouldn't say they're delusional, but they're grasping at I don't know how to put it. They're not really telling the 100% truth, because no one entirely knows. You know, like there's an entire book of factors you could write that would change whether or not this class would perform well in this tier, and we've briefly touched up on how there's multiple tiers for every tier, you know, like you can't just slap a class in a tier based off of one stock core or one bastardized core and pretend like that one you know, experience with that class or the limited experience that that person has playing with those people is gonna dictate what we see in the future, you know.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
I've seen so many people trashing Destro locks, and it's like, I don't know. Keep your eyes out for Destro and T7. You will see.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Yeah, there's a lot of like, once again, like the Icecrown players. There's a specific meta of play on Icecrown servers, on Icecrown Warmane, which is fully progressed server. Like, you know, focuses only on tier 10 raids, predominantly Icecrown Citadel and some Ruby Sanction, right? Sometimes TOGC, but not really. And like, there's a lot of like stuff that you can learn from that environment. Stuff like positioning, cooldown rotation. They have very well established and strong meta there. The thing is, though, once again, like high gear score BIS situations, like giga BIS situations. Correct me if I'm wrong, what's the highest? Like it goes 284. I think there's also 277. Like item levels past 264. Like giga fucking item levels, as close to item level 300 as possible. It's so different, guys. Like everything scales, because like all of a sudden, like your Feral Druid hits armor penetration cap, and what happens after that? Like, they stack more agi. Like some people say, you know, you should go haste and stuff like that, right? And it's like, we're not even talking about armor penetration cap. We're talking about shit. What happens after armor penetration cap, and just insanities like that. And it's a different world. It's a different world, I think, on fully progged Gigabis, close to 300 item level server, to like these seasonal servers where you actually need to think about what gear is available and how much gear do you have and how stuff progresses. This is what they did. You know, the argument that I made the other day was, you have at least 8 tier lists for Wrath of the Lich King, if not more. You have pre-BIS tier 7, you have full BIS tier 7, you have tier 7 BIS and tier 8 environment, and then you could say you have half tier 8 BIS tier 8 environment, you have full tier 8 BIS tier 8 environment, you have tier 8 BIS tier 9 environment, you have tier 9, but there's in between BIS, and then like you have tier 9 BIS tier 9 environment, and like what's your tier 9 BIS going into ICC and stuff like that. It changes, right? Elemental Shaman on Hodir is not in the same tier list or as high in the tier list as it is like in full BIS ICC or some different other fight. Same goes for like certain cleaving classes on Twin Valkyries. Like if you're cleaving the living frick out of Twin Valkyries, then those cleaving classes have insane efficiency. Like on Anub, if you're cleaving ads, oh boy, are your guys, your cleavers, disgusting. Absolutely disgusting.
Any living bombs?
Any whirlwinds, any divine storms, any blade flurries.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of the reason I don't really like applying this like modern day trending tier format to Wrath in general. You can't accurately do it, like it kind of leads to potential misinformation because one man's Fury Warrior, it's hard to place a class that's almost entirely useless compared to other classes on some fights, and then the king at the same time on some fights in the exact same raid. Like the uses are there. Most everyone, as we discussed, will have dual spec, especially guilds that are pushing. They will all have dual spec. There's going to be plenty of spec swapping going around. There'll be player swapping. Like it's hard to pinpoint one class's value on one specific fight versus another because it's going to vary. And the difference between going into Oldar with T7 and then farming Oldar with pretty decent Oldar gear it's insane. Like the amount of jumps in scaling that you get, and some classes outscaling others, it's like baffling in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you get insane gear from Uldor 10, man. Like, let's say for tanks, excuse me, you get insane tanking base and insane tanking shield with socket, right? Item level 232 from Hodir 10 man. And the best thing that you had was socket list from KT, which is 2 to 6. And it's insane. Like the jump, the jump from like tier 7 gear to like tier 8 gear is just through the freaking roof. Like you're way more freaking tankier, right? And like certain bosses are not going to be hitting you harder, right? Certain bosses in terms of damage taken they're not going to be like, for example, as high as a Saffron or KT, right? So how can you compare like stuff like that? Like, oh, in this fight, this is this or this is that. Like, it really changes, man. It's as a raid leader or raid manager, just throughout the iterations of the servers, I can tell you that like all of it, how like every single BIS list that I've seen on YouTube is a complete fucking meme. It is absolutely a complete fucking meme. Yeah, Fury Warriors kind of suck in tier 7, but that's like, oh, subtly Rogue sucks in tier 7. Like, no shit, Sherlock. Like, there's something awful. Like, yeah. It's like there's certain stuff that's obvious, but then again, you got like Frost Mage, and it's like, are you sure it's a complete meme in tier 7? Like, legitimately, if I had a mage that would approach me like, yo, listen, I want to try Frost in a couple of fights, or like I would like to, I don't know, like, yo, I want to try Frost in a 10-man. When you're organizing 10-man, I want to bring my Frost Mage and see what I can do, what kind of numbers I can pull off. Maybe not 25-man, because we need the goddamn Arcane Mage to bring us the buff, but in the 10-man, I'll be like, hey, yeah, go Frost, go ahead, try everything, try it out, see what you can do, come up with a new mix, with a new cocktail, see what it does, because sometimes certain logs say that Frost Mages can be not as complete shit in tier 7. Not that, once again, Fire Mage is obviously going to be the go-to spec at a certain point of time once they get enough gear and crit and stuff like that. But
of course. But we're seeing, Frost do 7k plus. That's pretty damn good for not even tier 7 bis.
Yeah, and that I also do have to say, take it with a grain of salt. It is a private server. It is what it is. It is this current environment. Is it the truth for this specific server? Yes, absolutely. Is it going to be different? And classic Wrath? Probably. Should you play Frost Mage? Probably not. Stick to Arcane. You'll be much better with Arcane for sure. 1,000,000%.
Don't get me wrong. I agree there.
But, is there still a lot of things to discover, like Destrolock? We'll see. What can they do in Tier 7?
Yeah, considering the fight times, I know Affliction's going to be constantly spoken about, coming up to Wrath, but I don't see, considering the amount of time it takes to ramp up on Affliction and then the little amount of time you'll have to execute, there won't be so much value there, especially with early gear, when you don't have enough haste. I think switching to Affliction in T7 bis will probably be a pretty viable option, but as far as the early clearing, I think, Demo and Destro are really going to shine. And I don't really get where the misconception of Destro isn't good comes from. I think it's people who play on servers like Synergy, Sunwell, and they don't see it shine at any point. And I don't know, man.
It's Ice Crown Folk as well. Sorry to interrupt you, but it's Ice Crown Folk as well. They never play Destro.
Of course, yeah. I mean, it's really its values really early on. When you're talking, especially fights like Malagos, Patchwork. If he's completely standing still, it's quite an easy fight there for Destro. I've seen them do 9.3k DPS. We have Lotheb, we got Hodier. Some of these early fights, Destro absolutely pops off. And that's not even keeping in mind the damage they do on just your average fight like Saffron. I'm not sure where it all came from, but I think it's gonna pop. That's my prediction for Wrath Classic.
Yeah. And also something that I would debate is even BM Hunter. As much as it is a meme, I think BM Hunter might potentially have a place if the fights are really, really, really short, right? Because the Bestial, I think the Bestial Wrath is such an amazing cooldown that if you have a fight that's 45 seconds, that's full duration of Bloodlust, and you do have a freaking exotic beast and you're just pumping, I think there is a world where you're just owning, you're just sugging. It's just massive DPS increase. That being said, not that survival is going to be bad, not that even marksmanship can pop, but compared to survival, at least BM will be much closer on short fights than it is on long fights for sure. And that's why I think if we get the version where Glut has no freaking HP whatsoever, and you're bringing you just drop one trap and one Earthbind Totem, and then you bring 2 tanks because you have a feral taunt every freaking 20 seconds and the boss is dead in freaking 45 seconds or a minute. I think that's going to be insane. I think it's going to be massive. It's going to be huge. If you have 1 minute totally kills. Agree. If you have 1 minute kills, that is.
I mean, even in Warmane with boosted health values, BM is doing pretty good. I was kind of surprised when I was going through Hunter logs and noticing that there was not a remarkable difference between BM, Survival, or Marksman. They're all doing pretty much the exact same damage. In your top 10, you have 2 BM, 6 Survival, and 2 Marksman. So it's they're not. They're all within a couple hundred DPS. It's not some massive difference you're gonna get over the other if you're playing another class. That's war main. You also got to take that with a grain of salt. There will be differences going into classic, but just with these longer fight times and factoring in the amount of time the amount of less time we'll spend on fights in classic, I think you're right there. Bestial Wrath is gonna scale hard with Bloodlust.
Yeah, I'm not even like saying this for the sake of like being right or like having a 5-head approach. It's just what I'm trying to say is don't discard it that fast. Like, don't be like, oh, BM is going to be shit by the default. It might be. Who knows? In tier 10, probably. Yeah, not probably. Most definitely BM will not be as good. More than likely, right? BM is not gonna be good there. No, that's not gonna be a thing, right? Especially like even tier 9. Like, just look at the amount of agility you can get on a survival hunter. Like, holy shit, it's insane. That being said, tier 7 is most definitely the tier where the specs are going to be the closest in terms of DPS across the board, I would say. Maybe.
Oh, I totally agree. Like the incredible scaling.
Yeah,
I think it is tier 7. Like, you're gonna see not a huge difference between a lot of the specs. Everyone's probably gonna assume assassination is gonna be X amount of better than combat, but I'd be willing to bet it's gonna be one of those cases similar to Hunter where you're not gonna see a huge difference between. I mean, I won't even talk about subtlety because that's almost entirely useless, but it's like I wouldn't discount it until you try it. There's plenty of time to try these specs in Nax. Like, don't take Nax too seriously. Experiment with whatever class you want to play, whatever playstyle you want to play. You might discover that you do more damage than your main spec. You might discover you like the playstyle better, and that allows you to do more damage because you're focusing on your rotation.
Yeah, and that's no very much something to consider. Is like, you're playing combat and the fist weapon drops from KT. Well, guess what? All you need is a good dagger in your offhand and you're gonna smash. Just give it a shot, try it out. As I said, you don't need to go in your like main 25 man where you're assassination wrong and that's it. Just go ahead, try it out. Try it in the 10-man Nax. Try it in a Obsidian Sanctum 0D where you like have 3 mini bosses and a boss and see how it goes there, what happens there. Maybe you really do like Blade Flurry and stuff like that, and Killing Spree, see what you can do there, right? I think the biggest problem is like there's not a lot of flexibility in terms of player base. I think everyone just kind of goes go-to. Like, I don't want to try it. Like, a lot of people don't want to play Affliction in TBC because it deals like lower amount of damage. But then again, you have like freaks like Crix that like, I don't know, like Crix is a memer in his own right. But I saw him play Affliction and he's yelling on Discord, "You fucking bums, where you at?" And he's actually out DPSing some like freaking people that he like, he has no business out DPSing his Affliction and then like Tempest Keep or some shit. So I don't know. I think everyone should experiment a bit more, and yeah, if you're a rogue, don't just be, I am assassination until tier 9. Haha. Like, try it out. Take the fist weapon, take the dagger, see what happens. Like, I don't know which best dagger it is. Maybe it is the Sinister, maybe it's Whip Death, I don't know. Or which dagger, whichever it is, I'm pretty sure it's gonna be min-maxed, and yeah.
Yeah, you can't be afraid to like fail early on in any regard. Like, it's because it's not failing. If you're not performing up to your own standards, to whatever raid standard you're in, like, who cares? You're in Nax. The only foreseeable content right now is incredibly easy, and it's a good time to find a group. Like, it's a good time to figure out your niche. I mean, like, I've usually tier 7s when I try all my memory, and then by the time Oldar's out, it's the focus turns on. I'm maining one or two classes. I don't have my 5 alts keeping up anymore. because there isn't as much time. You're trying to do 10-man hard modes on 2 characters. You're trying to hard mode progression and Oldar in general is going to be a huge amount of time. Like right now, we're doing all of tier 7 in 2 to 3 hours or 3 hours or whatever it is, and it's easy. It's whatever. I'm not gonna have that liberty when Oldar comes out to play on my 6 different characters. And if T7's that boring, use that opportunity to play something else, or go dual spec and play a new spec. Play Feral if you're a boomkin. You can get gear for Feral in like, I don't know, a week and a half.
Also, I just checked the clock. I've held you hostage for quite a long time. We have a question in the chat that we can answer, and we can slowly wrap up this episode. Papa Lucas says, "How will HP pulls being smaller affect burst style spec? Can that improve viability if you can burst the whole fight?" It's pretty much like this. Imagine if you have a 60-second fight or a 45-second fight, right? And you pop Bloodlust, and you have your pre-pot. You're gonna pre-pot. You're gonna smash the boss and pull. You're gonna pop your cooldowns. Your trinket procs are going to align with your 3-pot, with lust, with everything. You get Sunders up immediately. Bam! You're smashing. Everything's procking, right? You get all the juices flowing. And if you have a 5-minute fight, your burst window is like not there because you have only one Bloodlust. But let's say if the kill time of the boss is the duration of the Bloodlust or slightly under the Bloodlust, because mind you still have kill shot, so your DPS goes up during the execute time, right? So let's say your Bloodlust ends the moment your kill shot becomes active, so to speak, or the phase where you can kill shot is active, then your overall DPS is going to be so much fucking higher, because your Bestial Wrath is like going to be effectively up for 30% of the fight, whereas if it's like a 5-minute fight, it would be much less. It would be like 15% because you would cast it twice, right? Or like
I think it's a really good question. Just considering like how fast the fights will be, I think it's a great question, because like that's like one of the driving forces behind my thought process on demo being like so incredibly good. Like, sure, it's great now in these longer boosted fights. It'll be great later too. Like if fights are really taking, we use 1 minute as an example, you're gonna have meta up for half of the fight, and then for a third of the fight you'll be shooting out soulfires. Like, your burst is going to be incredible there. If your fight's a minute and 10 seconds, you get a second pot. Like you get your pre-pot, you get your second pot in, and by the time your second pot's up, the fight's over. Like, that is also going to be huge for DPS. And I think that's sadly going to be like kind of an accurate estimate of how some of the early fights will last. Like, Arcane Mages are going to pop off. Bestial Wrath, BM Hunters, Demo Warlocks. Like, they're going to have a much greater value early on until, the health really starts scaling. You get these long-ass boss fights later on in the expansion.
Yeah, absolutely. Once again, if you can have a super, super fast fight, and keep this in mind, the bosses are not going to be hitting you for a lot. You can go 1 tank, 1 healer. Legit, no memes. You can go 1 tank, 1 healer. Let's say Glut 25. Easily doable. 1 tank and one freaking Holy Paladin, right? That's all it takes.
With someone resetting stacks easy, yeah.
Yeah.
Even if you have to reset, because if Decimate removes your stacks, he stops stacking during Decimate.
I think you kill him before Decimate.
Will you even get a Decimate is the fucking question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's say let's say you have one kiter, right? You can even throw beacon on that guy. you have one tank and you have one Holy Paladin. That means you have 22 DPS. And if everyone is pre-potting and everyone is sweaty, and you finally got your Sons of Water done and whatever, you're geared as frick, you got like tier 7 bis, y'all got 4200 gear score across the board, like even more, 4.3k gear score across the board. Like, you're smashing the boss. Easily, I can see fight not lasting any longer than 1 minute. Easily.
Yeah, and your classes like warrior, for example, especially arms, that don't scale super well with bloodlust, they're gonna look a lot worse than they do now, because you have all these classes scaling super hard with that lust that's lasting, a huge percentage of your total boss time. You won't get this insane scaling with your warrior. You'd never have time for the other classes to even out during that fight from their bloodlust damage. They kind of calm down, their burst is over, all their trinkets are procced. The balance isn't gonna ever happen. So I think classes that don't do too well with haste in general, it's not gonna look good for them in the short fights.
No, not at all. That's kind of the premise of like why when we speak, or at least when you think about burst, we're thinking about like you're actually downsizing healers. Listen, even on Frostmourne, we don't have the cleanest of the raids in terms of execution. Our DPS is not as good, and everything is buffed, and we're still 4 healing. We're 3 healing stuff, and a lot of the stuff is doing double damage, and we're still 3 healing stuff, right? Kind of to put it in perspective, imagine stuff being nerfed. Imagine someone just nerfed Nax across the board. Just completely nerfed it. The tanks are taking 30% less damage. The raid is taking 40% less damage. Now, what you need to put in perspective is the value of Judgment of Light goes up by quite a bit. Now, there's a discussion where Judgment of Light is bugged and apparently it's healing way too much. To be honest, I'm way too lazy to do the testing on my own and to actually see like if that's true or not. It should be 2% of your HP, right, and stuff like that.
I find that interesting just because I've never really seen a big disparity between different servers and different cores as to like Judgment of Light healing in general. Like, you look at the breakdown, and I've never noticed a difference, So it'd be strange if every single person got it wrong, when they set up their servers.
I don't know, maybe in terms of proc rate, but I don't think I think Judgment of Light works more or less the same. It is 2% of max HP healed every time, and once again, if the bosses are doing less damage, imagine this, for example, if the bosses are doing less damage compared to right now what we're seeing, then the value of Judgment of Light goes up quite substantially so. And then all of a sudden, you're not even 3-4 healing, you're just 2 healing. I mean, you could just simply
your Red Paladin becomes a healer.
Yeah, kinda, yeah, like everything. Like healing stream totem, just healing stream totem goes up in value as well. Proportionally so. Like even your Disco Priest, your Disco Shields, all of a sudden it's like, instead of absorbing 2 ticks of Rain of Fire, I can just drop a shield and it's going to absorb all of the ticks of Rain of Fire, and the target is going to be taking no damage whatsoever, right?
No need to move, even more DPS.
Yeah, but as I said, like a lot of the stuff is like, I really think that Mike's not going to be solo healed. Like, without a shred of my doubt, I think that's such a solo healable fight. Like 1,000,000%. I would even, like, so many fights could be solo healed. And if you actually have a really amazing healer, like a really, really good Holy Paladin, he can, like, solo heal. Like, maybe not Saf. I would say you'll want to 2-heal that shit. You'll probably want to 2-heal that shit. Because if you don't want to, risk the DPS and shit, you can...
That seems ambitious.
Yeah, but like, and maybe like Katie and stuff like that. But other quote unquote Mimi bosses, like, you could easily solo heal a noob, but that's not an issue. It really isn't. You just have a beacon, you heal the tank, and heal impales, and voila, you're done. That's all you need to do.
You can solo heal Noth. You can solo heal
1,000,000%. Yeah,
the entirety of the Plague Quarter.
you can solo heal Hagen easily.
Lotheb would be a little bit tricky.
No shot on Lotheb.
You just do a couple tranq rotations, you might be okay.
Maybe, and Divine. We'll see about Lotheb, but yeah. Anyway, this has been an extra long session, chill session. We talked quite a bit. we could go on and on and on. We could probably talk for additional 20-30 hours.
Oh yeah,
for sure. We could talk 50-60 hours even, about tier 7, tier 8, tier 9, tier 10. We didn't even touch upon all the things that Brian Birmingham said. We only touched a little bit, but it's been a chill podcast. This one at least, not a lot of raging, a little bit more grounded, a little bit more factual. But yeah, Turbo, thank you very much for joining me on this episode. It's been an absolute blast.
For having me.
It's been an absolute blast, man.
A lot of fun.
But yeah, we'll bring Turbo on more future podcasts if he desires to come. And
yeah, brother.
On that note, have a good one, everyone. Make sure to like the video, it helps us a lot. If you have any questions, drop it in the comment section. Hey, and if you're feeling fancy, you might even smash that subscribe button. Who knows? Peace, everyone. See you on the episode 7. Do it, exactly.